Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us here at Twiggy Drowe's Creature Feature Show. I am here with the legendary Tom Sullivan. How you doing?
Really well, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for taking time out of your day to answer a few questions for me.
Sure.
And thank you for joining us here on the Sid Jones Network. If you could just do me a favor and just give us a quick shout out to the camera there.
Hi everybody, welcome to the show. I'm here to answer any and all questions.
All right, let's get to it. So, I'm pretty sure you've already heard, a lot of these questions already. I want this to feel more like a conversation than an actual, it's a typical Q&A.
Okay.
If I say anything out of line, if I ask any question you're not necessarily comfortable with, just say pass. No hard feelings.
Sure.
All right. So, you've probably heard this one all the time. So, what was the one thing, if you can actually pick one, that first got you into horror?
My brother Mike and I, when we were, I think it was 4, I was 5, we turned on the TV one Saturday morning around 10, and King Kong was just starting, the original 1933 film.
Oh, classic.
And I didn't know about, if I'd seen a gorilla, it was like a cartoon on a cracker, like Animal Crackers box. I mean, I didn't,
Magilla gorilla type.
definitely didn't know about dinosaurs. And the story is so good, it hooks you from the very beginning. You say, is this the movie picture ship? I mean, you just hooked from the beginning. And we watched it up until the middle of the King Kong Tyrannosaurus Rex fight. And our dad yells upstairs, "Come on, guys, we got to go to the lumberyard." "No, Dad, the coolest movie's on." And so we came back, and all I could think of, I hope we get back in time so we can finish watching it. Of course we didn't. And I couldn't stop talking about it. And dinosaurs, I was infected immediately about dinosaurs. And I remember that following Christmas, I got a fossil set that had some dinosaur things, cards and things with it, Charles Knight paintings and whatever. Charles Knight was an amazing illustrator who was one of the first guys who did an amazing job of doing paintings and sculptures of dinosaurs and prehistoric animals from the bones. He was like, a paleontologist artist kind of guy.
Right.
But made these things come alive and had a huge effect on King Kong and pretty much every film that came after.
He did the artwork for the movie?
No, he did artwork, and then they kind of just stole his look of a T-Rex and
So they used his artwork as sort of like a model.
Well, as an inspiration, if nothing else. And but that had definite horror elements to it. I mean, it's an amazingly intense film.
Yeah,
it's still ahead of its time, in my opinion.
Yeah,
because it's like a Spielberg film before his parents probably were born. And so that got me hooked. And then my mom, I couldn't stop talking about it, so my mom spent the next year going through the TV guide every week, looking for it when it played again, and it finally showed up on a Saturday, invited all my friends over, and I got to see the whole thing, which just blew my mind. Because at the T-Rex fight, the movie's just getting started, And that got me hooked. And so I got the Marx dinosaur sets, which I still had it because they're collectors now. But I remember we'd go out in the yard and we'd find plants that looked like miniature palm trees and stuff. And
you make your own little scene,
little dioramas and stuff.
Yeah, I remember doing that.
Yeah, obsessed with that.
I did that with like little army men, set up little wars and stuff like that.
Yep. And then in the 3rd grade, we moved. We lived in Franklin, Michigan. We moved to Wheaton, Illinois, the suburbs of Chicago, and every time King Kong was on, I made sure I watched it. It doesn't matter if it was 3 in the morning. I would get up and sneak out downstairs and watch it quietly, sitting right in front of the TV set. And I remember in 3rd grade, some kids told me about Famous Monsters magazine, which Forey Ackerman was the editor of, and that had interviews and stories about the making of films. Something that just hadn't happened before, where he would, Lon Chaney and Jack Pierce, the makeup guy who did Frankenstein, turned Boris Karloff and Frankenstein, and made Wolfman and all this other stuff. And so you're learning about these guys, and of course he had articles eventually about Willis O'Brien, and I could see what the puppets looked like. They were just little 18-inch tall things and metal armatures and made out of sponge rubber and covered with rabbit fur or whatever, and by Marcel Delgado, this amazing artist and craftsman, and that led to Ray Harryhausen, who's Willis O'Brien, the effects guy behind King Kong, was Harryhausen's mentor of sorts, and they met when Ray was fairly young, and he inspired him enough to keep going with it. And Ray went on to make 17 amazing films. Fortunately, Ray had a producer, Charles Schneer, who kept him busy, who knew how to work the business end of stuff and get films made and into theaters. And Ray always delivered. So the articles on Ray Harryhausen also helped because you'd see him with his models and everything, so it gives you more an idea. And then I'm making my own little stop motion puppets out of wire and foam rubber.
I know it's fun doing stuff like that. Like when I was a kid, I would take those big bags of those big bags of cotton they sell like Walmart or whatever.
Sure.
I would mold those together with petroleum jelly. And wrap around wire and you just make like little figures and stuff like that.
Crazy, wow. And but it led me to other materials like mold rubber. You can get these in hobby stores, and you could paint that over the foam rubber and create textures and stuff with cotton or Kleenex or whatever.
So you just did your own little experiments to see what did what, how it would look and stuff like that.
And then when I was 13 or 14, I always had neighborhood jobs mowing lawns and stuff, and saved up $20 and bought a 8mm camera that had a single frame feature, so you could take one picture at a time on your motion picture film, and that was affordable. I couldn't afford a tripod, so I would tape my camera to a diner tray, a little folding table tray.
Oh yeah.
And then I would set my little creatures up, and didn't know about what are they called? Harryhausen's creatures would have a metal plate at the bottom with a drill hole in it, so you could bolt.
So you can hold it in place.
Tie downs is what they call it. So they don't skip around while you're filming it. I didn't know about that, so my model was jerking. And
you learn as you go.
There's also a commercial back then where it was humans, and they would be sitting on the ground in the street as though they're in a car, but there is no car or a bus or whatever. And so what they would do is set up the camera on a tripod, have everybody in position, sitting like this on the car with their feet out, and they would take a frame. Then the people would scoot forward a couple of inches and take another frame, and like that. And then if they turned, they put their hands out and turn. And so in the commercial, it was like that. So I tried things like that with neighborhood kids, and then I got in trouble because I basically the kids wore out their pants, because they're just scooting on their pants, and teens don't go, 100 foot of that, and you're pretty much pantless.
That actually brings up another question. You just dove right into it. What are some of the biggest changes that you've noticed from just any genre that you want to pick, that you noticed in not just the movie industry as a whole, but in the horror industry?
Well, I think the biggest thing about horror is its transition from it used to be back in the 20s and 30s when you made horror films, starting with the silent films. It was
I love those classic silents.
Oh boy, yeah, Phantom of the Opera, Hunchback of Notre Dame.
My favorite.
Oh boy, yeah, absolutely. That stuff was built up with really significant. I mean, they had certain makeup effects and things like that, which were amazingly effective. But the storytelling was really human based. I mean, it was.
I know. I noticed that. I'm really sorry to interrupt you. I'm just very passionate about this, but it just seems like the storytelling between then and now, comparing it, and now it almost seems more automatic than anything else.
There's that, and also they knew that that the mind would fill in the blanks for people in the story. I mean, when you saw the shadow coming over the poor victim, and they're starting to scream, and then the door slams shut, and you hear horrible cries. We're projecting the most horrible things that could be happening to that poor person. And then, like, the 60s come along, and people like George Romero, and also in other kind of films, Bonnie and Clyde and Sam Peckinpah and the Wild Bunch. Well, gee, we can have exploding squids, we can do all kinds of gory things that are just brutal.
Right.
Apparently in Bonnie and Clyde, they have a chunk of Clyde's skull come off.
Yeah.
Which was like a reference to the Zapruder film of Kennedy's assassination. And so that and suddenly the thing is the violence can be shown, and it had trouble with ratings and everything, but even that today is separated out, because R-rated films can be quite graphic these days. And so then they went that direction, and that's a major change in horror, because all of a sudden, Dick Smith and Rob Bottin and others, Rob Bottin and Rick Baker, suddenly are doing this stuff that's just amazing, and then you can make fake heads and exploding things, and plus you're allowed to photograph it and put it on a film and throw it on a projector and drive-in movies and sell out.
It's amazing how you guys got away with some of this stuff.
Absolutely. And so when we did Evil Dead, that's where we were at.
Right.
And Sam was this night, met him up at MSU in '77, I'm guessing. And he was a encyclopedia of film technique. He had a way of analyzing films that was just uncanny to me. He could tell you why things worked in certain films and other things. He had this thing, and he demonstrated it because when we were preparing for Evil Dead, we'd all go see bad horror films. I remember Toolbox Murders. And he would watch this and then say, wait, they've got not a great film, but he would say, look, you got these three actors, you've got this set, and here's what's supposed to happen in it. But what they could have done, it's all the same elements, is shoot it like this, or add this little thing into it, and that would have been kick-ass. I mean, it had the same point, the same impact of the story, of the scene that you needed to accomplish, but it was just so much better when he would do that, And so he had, when you're a filmmaker, you need to have the film in your head before you shoot a frame, or even hire anybody. And Sam was like that. And when we were down in Tennessee making the film, I had about a week or two before we actually did any special effects stuff, because he was shooting pretty much in the chronological order of the film. So it started off with the kids arriving at the cabin and all that stuff. So it was a week or two later that I did Betsy Baker into makeup as her demonic Linda. And I tried out one makeup, but you don't really see it, but it's the makeup that wound up being on Teresa Tilly or Sarah York in the script.
Okay, so you're not solely responsible for making the book, but you also did the makeup effects in the movie.
Oh yeah, I did the special effects and the makeup effects, turned those lovely women into deadites. And part of the thing was we didn't really discuss an MPAA rating, which at the time was a big deal, because if you have too much gore or sex or something, it wouldn't even be in theater. You would get an X rating at the very least, and then that would limit if newspapers, like mom and pop newspapers or even big ones, would even send a review or allow an ad for it.
Right.
And so you were, Evil Dead, playing 7 and 9, that kind of thing. You were just limited. And we didn't really discuss that. And so but I after a while, I'm thinking, gee, maybe we're showing too much blood.
Right.
And
I knew it was too much blood.
At the time, I'd known about. There was a thing, Battlestar Galactica had come out on TV, which was like inspired by Star Wars.
God,
and they had a thing because originally the Cylons were like human robots.
Right.
Were like humans. And the thing is if you shoot a human on television, you could like shoot one per episode. But if they're robots, people in robot suits, you can blow them up all day long.
As long as they don't bleed.
And so I'm thinking, as long as they don't bleed. And so I thought, well, what if we had, this is a supernatural event going on in The Evil Dead, so why not have them, when they bleed or vomit or whatever it is, have a different colored fluid all the time, as though their biology has changed.
They did the same thing with
unspeakable.
Quentin Tarantino, I can't, vampire movie, I can't, Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm this slow.
Which I when I saw that, I got, this is kind of a Robert Rodriguez's Evil Dead kind of thing, that funny humor stuff.
Right.
And Tom Savini, the genius, and he was Sex Machine in that whole thing. But so it was that kind of thing, and that became, one of our images. I don't think Sam carried that on in the other films, but that was my idea. So when Evil Dead came out, we ran into the MPAA rating thing, and had they given it a rating, it would have given it an X-rated film. So they decided to go not rated, NR, which had the same effect. They wouldn't advertise it or put in reviews in papers. But fortunately, we had magazines like Fangoria at the time, and Cinema Fantastique, and a couple of others. Not many. Gore Zone, I think, came later. But that definitely took an interest in the Evil Dead, and there was a contest for Evil Dead. It was put into Best Horror Film of the Year. Right. And I heard there was a flood of votes coming from Detroit, which may have been from pretty much the same source. But I think I came in third for Best Makeup Effects.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
Which was, well, not if you're cheating. Because I think I look back at my work and considering I was given like 3 weeks with the script before we went down to Tennessee to film it. Which is, for an effects guy, it's like, just shoot me now. It's like that was enough time to figure out how make a list of the special effects and makeup scenes, and then figure out what materials I might need to make those stuff, and go and try to find them. I think the only real fancy stuff was a gallon jug of foam, R&D foam, which was like a 3-part cake mix to make foam rubber. And I made a leg and an arm out of that stuff. And but the rest of the makeup,
I heard a red shot in that part.
Oh yeah, we had Sam and Bruce and Ellen and a couple of others. We had made a short Super 8 film before Evil Dead called Within the Woods, and that was kind of like a run through.
Available anywhere else?
No.
I'd like to see that.
There might be a bootleg thing on YouTube or something.
Right.
No, that's been done, but it had some sound problem issues because they'd used music that they didn't have the rights for. So you could show it privately, but not for commercially. And but that had Bruce in makeup. Bruce Campbell was the possessed person in that, and the makeup was being applied, and it took like 5 hours. And so we started on a Friday, and Bruce decided I'm going to sleep in the makeup so I don't have to go through this again. So by Saturday night, he was his body was basically rejecting the makeup. Makeup's a lot of fun for the first hour or two.
Yeah, it gets
And
you
then,
after a while.
and then yeah, because it affects your eating, and then if you're sweating, it's always being touched up.
And you think it's running and it's not, and you got to itch over here real
Oh,
quick. Now you
and
got to
plus
smear
it's
this.
covering your skin, and that makes you sweat and makes it worse and all this. And so after a while, you're just kind of tired of it. So after 24 or 36 hours, it's
Right.
like you just want to tear it off, but you're in the
You know,
middle of a movie.
You know Jackson Underworld? Have you heard of it?
No.
Yeah, it's a haunted house over at Jackson, Michigan. I was the clown in the basement down there. And
Is that Lance Kuffels?
what's that?
Lance Kuffel?
Yeah.
Oh, I know Lance.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. I haven't been there, but I was at the Homer Mill
Mm-hmm.
a bunch of times. We were talking about making a movie there, and then the place burnt down. Damn it!
Yeah, I remember hearing about that.
Oh, what a tragedy!
I was working the basement. I was in the clown room, and I remember wearing this suit. I don't know what it was, but considering it was like late October, I am just sweating, and my face is not even messed up at all, but I can just feel it running down. I'm trying not to itch. I'm trying not to touch him. Oh my God, this is driving me crazy! And I'm in there from 7 p.m. to 1 a.m.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, it just.
So yeah, so you can imagine, even being in a Batman suit, you're sweating 5 quarts of water a day, which is like in a medical emergency that you're being put into. I heard Christian Bale wasn't a fun guy to be around after a couple hours in the Batman suit, and because it's like wearing a scuba suit. I mean, you're completely covered head to toe. They would put feminine napkins in their armpits to absorb the water. In Evil Dead 2, Sam Raimi's younger brother Ted, who's an amazing guy, he played the Henrietta Deadite, and there are shots where they take his Henrietta boot foot off, and pour sweat out, like a couple of cups.
Wow! And
they had one suit for him, and it was made out of a foam rubber, a polyurethane, and it's a big sponge, so it's absorbing all the sweat, and then put that on after day 3. Because it's not like being sent out to the dry cleaners every night. It's just hung up.
It's stinky.
I think they might have tried to compress it, but also it had the mixture had a formaldehyde gas in it.
Oh.
And when they first made it, they had the big suit out, sandwiched in between 2 3/4-inch 4x8 pieces of plywood outside the studio. Our studio on Evil Dead 2 was an abandoned school, the Feijian High School, I think, or junior high. And so the gym turned into a great studio because you could build a couple of sets in there. And then you've got a school which has a cafeteria and lots of offices, right? Like schoolrooms, empty schoolrooms make great offices and departments for makeup and costume and special effects and all that. And an office with phones, so it's a great choice.
Right.
And but they had the Henrietta suit squished between these things with a sign that said, "We've got to get the gas out of this stuff. So every time you come in and out of the studio, please jump a couple of times on top of it." And so we did. And then Ted puts that on and starts his film career.
You gotta sting, be all crusty.
Yeah.
And then formaldehyde. Oh my God.
And that's after a couple of hours of putting the Henrietta makeup on with Mark Shostrom's crew that later became K&B, Kurtzman, Nicotero, and Berger, and amazing guys as well. They maximize the gore stuff. I mean, what major franchise have they not worked on? And even to this day, still. Greg Nicotero, amazing director. He directs like the pilot, the first episodes and last episodes of Walking Dead, and in betweens too. They're outstanding
I'm not really a big fan of The Walking Dead, not for any superficial reason, but simply for the fact that it is just too slow for me. You know?
Well, it picked up in the later seasons. I originally it kind of had that padding thing, but they kind of got past that. You know, where you just these third stage characters with all their little stuff going on.
Right.
But
I tried
I
watching
think they
it up to about the third season, and I can't get into it.
give it another
tried.
shot,
Really-
especially without if you watch it on like Netflix has it on streaming, so you can binge it without commercials. Because sometimes commercials seem to make things even longer.
Yeah, they do.
And so if you binge watch it, it's actually good. But the later episodes kick ass. I mean, seriously. And then Fear the Walking Dead